Marcus Rivera was tired. Really tired. The kind of tired that comes from working 2 shifts back-to-back on the highway patrol. His eyes burned from staring at the road for 16 straight hours. His back hurt from sitting in the police cruiser. All he wanted was to get home to his house in Willowbrook Estates and sleep. The day had started like any other Tuesday morning. Marcus put on his uniform, checked his equipment, and headed out to patrol Interstate 85. He had been a state trooper for 12 years now. He knew every mile of highway in his district. He knew which spots were dangerous for accidents. He knew where speeders liked to hide. He thought he had seen everything, but today was different. At 7:30 in the morning, a truck driver fell asleep at the wheel. His big rig crossed 3 lanes of traffic and hit 4 cars. Marcus was the first officer on the scene. What he saw made his stomach turn. Metal everywhere. Glass scattered across the asphalt. People crying and screaming. The accident took hours to clear. Marcus directed traffic around the crash site. He helped the paramedics load injured people into ambulances. He took statements from witnesses. He measured skid marks and took photos for the accident report. By the time the last car was towed away, the sun was setting. Marcus should have gone home then. His shift was over, but another trooper called in sick and they needed someone to cover the night shift. Marcus volunteered. He always did. That was just the kind of person he was. He cared about keeping people safe on the roads. The night shift was busy too. A drunk driver crashed into a guardrail near exit 47. 2 teenagers were racing their cars and almost killed a family in a minivan. A woman ran out of gas in the middle of the highway and Marcus had to push her car to safety. Every call seemed to take longer than usual. By 6 a.m. Wednesday morning, Marcus had been awake for almost 24 hours. His captain finally told him to go home. Marcus was grateful. He changed out of his uniform and into his regular clothes. Blue jeans, an old t-shirt, and work boots. He looked like any other guy heading home from work. Marcus drove his personal truck home. It was a black Ford F-150 that he had bought used 3 years ago. He had added some modifications to it. Bigger tires for camping trips, a roof rack for his kayak, a toolbox in the back for his weekend projects. It was not fancy, but it was his. Willowbrook Estates was a gated community about 20 minutes from the highway patrol station. Marcus had moved there 5 years ago when he got promoted to sergeant. The neighborhood was nice and quiet, perfect for a cop who dealt with chaos all day long. The houses were big and expensive. The lawns were always perfect. The streets were clean and safe. Marcus showed his resident card to the security guard at the gate. The guard waved him through like always. Marcus drove slowly through the neighborhood streets. He was always careful about speed limits, even in his own neighborhood. It was just habit after 12 years of being a cop. The houses in Willowbrook Estates all looked similar. Big brick homes with 3-car garages, manicured lawns with no weeds, expensive cars parked in driveways. Marcus sometimes wondered if he really fit in here. He was just a regular cop. His neighbors were doctors and lawyers and business owners. But the house was a good investment, and it was safe for his family. Marcus turned onto Maple Street where his house was located. The street was empty except for a few cars parked in driveways. Most people were already at work by now. Marcus was looking forward to a hot shower and 8 hours of sleep. He had the next day off and he planned to spend it doing absolutely nothing. That was when he noticed the car behind him. At first, Marcus did not think much about it. It was just another car driving through the neighborhood. But something felt wrong. The car was following too close. It was matching his speed exactly. When Marcus slowed down, the car slowed down. When Marcus sped up a little, the car sped up too. Marcus looked in his rearview mirror. The car was white like a police car, but it was not a police car he recognized. It looked like a regular sedan with some kind of lights on top. The lights were not flashing yet, but Marcus could see them clearly. Marcus felt confused. He knew every police car in the county. This was not one of them. Maybe it was an undercover car he had not seen before. But why would an undercover car have visible lights on top? That did not make sense. Marcus turned right onto Oak Avenue, 1 street before his own. The white car turned right too. Now Marcus was sure he was being followed. His police training kicked in. He started paying attention to details. The license plate was not a government plate. The lights on top looked cheap, like the kind you could buy at an auto parts store. Marcus turned left onto Pine Street. The white car followed again. Marcus was getting annoyed now. He had been working for 24 hours straight. He was tired and hungry and just wanted to go home. If this was some kind of joke, he was not in the mood for it. Finally, Marcus turned onto his own street, Elm Drive. His house was the fourth one on the left, a nice 2-story brick home with a circular driveway. His wife Sarah's car was in the garage. His daughter Emma was probably at school already. Marcus pulled into his driveway and put the truck in park. He was about to get out when the white car pulled up behind him. Red and blue lights started flashing on top of the car. Marcus could not believe what he was seeing. Someone was trying to pull him over in his own driveway. Marcus sat in his truck and watched in the mirror. 2 men got out of the white car. They were wearing uniforms that looked like police uniforms, but something was off about them. The uniforms looked new, like costumes. The men walked with too much swagger, like they were trying too hard to look important. Marcus had dealt with police impersonators before. It happened more often than people thought. Usually it was some loser who wanted to feel powerful. They would buy fake badges and uniforms online and pull people over to scare them. Most of the time they just wanted to feel important. Sometimes they wanted money or other things, but this was different. These men were in his neighborhood. They were on his street. They were in his driveway. This was personal. Marcus reached for his cell phone. He was about to call 911 when one of the men knocked on his window. The man was tall and thin with a mustache. He wore sunglasses even though it was not very sunny. His uniform had patches that said Community Security and Elite Enforcement. Marcus rolled down his window halfway. He kept his hands where the man could see them. Even though he was a cop, he knew that any situation with fake police could be dangerous. The man bent down and looked at Marcus with a serious expression. When he spoke, his voice was loud and authoritative, like he was used to people obeying him. "Sir, do you know why I stopped you today?" Marcus stared at the man through his half-open window. He could not believe what was happening. After 12 years as a state trooper, he thought he had seen everything. But getting pulled over by fake cops in his own driveway was a new experience. The man with the mustache was still waiting for an answer. His partner stood behind him, also wearing sunglasses and trying to look tough. Both men had their hands on their hips, near what looked like fake police equipment. Marcus could see plastic handcuffs, a fake radio, and what was probably a toy gun. Marcus decided to play along for now. He wanted to see how far these guys would take their little game. Maybe they were just neighborhood kids playing a prank. Maybe they were harmless wannabes who watched too many cop shows. Or maybe they were dangerous criminals who robbed people by pretending to be police. "No, sir, I do not know why you stopped me," Marcus said calmly. He kept his voice steady and polite. His police training had taught him to stay calm in strange situations. "Could you please explain what this is about?" The man with the mustache puffed out his chest like a rooster. He pulled out a small notebook and a pen. "Sir, I am Security Chief Bradley Thornton of Elite Residential Enforcement. This is my partner, Officer Davis. We have full police authority in this gated community." Marcus almost laughed out loud. Full police authority? These guys were clearly delusional. But he kept his face serious and nodded like he was taking them seriously. "I clocked you doing 37 miles per hour in a 25-mile-per-hour zone," Thornton continued. "That is excessive speeding in a residential area. You were also driving in a reckless manner that endangered children and families." Now Marcus was getting angry. He had been driving exactly 22 miles per hour through the neighborhood. He always drove under the speed limit. It was automatic after years of being a cop, and there were no children on the street. School had started an hour ago. "Sir, I was driving under the speed limit," Marcus said, "and I did not see any children or families on the street." Thornton's face got red. "Are you arguing with me, sir? Are you telling me that I do not know how to use a radar gun? I have been doing this job for 3 years. I know speeding when I see it." Marcus looked at Thornton's equipment. He did not see a radar gun anywhere. Just some cheap plastic toys that looked like police gear. These guys were not just playing dress-up. They actually thought they were real cops. "Could I see your radar reading?" Marcus asked politely. Thornton's partner, Davis, stepped forward. He was shorter and fatter than Thornton with a thick beard. His uniform was too tight and his fake badge was crooked. "Sir, you need to step out of the vehicle immediately. You're being uncooperative with a lawful traffic stop." Marcus stayed in his truck. He was not getting out for these clowns, but he was curious to see how far they would push this. "I would like to see some identification first. Could you show me your police badges and certifications?" Thornton and Davis looked at each other. Marcus could see them getting nervous. They had probably never been asked for real identification before. Most people just went along with their act because they were too scared or confused to ask questions. Thornton reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out what looked like a toy badge. It was shiny and new, like it came from a costume shop. The writing on it was hard to read and did not look official at all. "This is my badge," Thornton said. "I am a certified law enforcement officer in this community. Now step out of the vehicle or I will place you under arrest for obstruction." Marcus had heard enough. These guys were not just playing around. They were actually trying to arrest people. That made them dangerous. He decided it was time to end this game. Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out his real police badge. It was made of heavy metal and had his badge number engraved on it. The state seal was clearly visible, and it looked nothing like Thornton's toy badge. "Gentlemen, I am Sergeant Marcus Rivera of the State Highway Patrol," Marcus said, holding up his badge. "I have been a police officer for 12 years. You are not real police officers and you have no authority to stop or detain anyone." Thornton looked at the badge for a few seconds. Marcus expected him to apologize and leave. Any reasonable person would have been embarrassed and run away. But Thornton surprised him. "I do not care what you do outside this community," Thornton said loudly. "In here, I am the law. I have full authority from the Homeowners Association to enforce all traffic laws and community standards. Your state badge means nothing in Willowbrook Estates." Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. These guys were not just pretending to be cops. They actually believed they had real police powers. They thought the HOA had given them the right to arrest people. Davis stepped closer to Marcus's truck. "Sir, you need to respect our authority. The Homeowners Association hired us to keep this community safe. We have the same powers as any police officer when we are working in this neighborhood." Marcus shook his head. "That is not how the law works. The HOA cannot give you police powers. Only the state can certify police officers. You guys are committing a crime by impersonating law enforcement." Thornton's face was getting redder. He was clearly not used to people challenging his authority. "Sir, you are wrong. We have official documentation from the HOA board. We have been trained in law enforcement procedures. We have the right to issue citations and make arrests." Marcus looked around the neighborhood. A few neighbors had come out of their houses to watch the commotion. Mrs. Patterson, from across the street, was standing on her porch with her coffee mug. Mr. Johnson, from next door, was peeking through his curtains. Some of them had their cell phones out and were recording the whole thing. Marcus realized this was probably not the first time these fake cops had caused problems in the neighborhood. The neighbors looked interested but not surprised. They had probably seen Thornton and Davis pulling this act before. "Look," Marcus said, trying to be reasonable. "I understand you guys think you are helping the community, but you cannot pull people over and write tickets. You are not real police officers. You could get in serious trouble for this." Thornton pulled out his notebook again and started writing. "Sir, I am citing you for excessive speeding, reckless driving, and failure to respect community authority. The fine is $250. You have 30 days to pay or we will take further action." Marcus watched in amazement as Thornton wrote out what looked like a real traffic ticket. The paper had official-looking letterhead that said Elite Residential Enforcement at the top. There were spaces for the date, time, violation, and fine amount. Thornton filled it out with Marcus's license plate number and address. "This is ridiculous," Marcus said. "You cannot write me a ticket. You have no legal authority." Davis moved to the passenger side of Marcus's truck and started looking inside. "Sir, I need to inspect your vehicle for other violations. The HOA has strict rules about vehicle maintenance and appearance. Your truck looks like it might not meet community standards." Now Marcus was really getting angry. These guys were not just playing dress-up anymore. They were actually trying to search his vehicle. That was a serious crime. Real police officers needed probable cause or a warrant to search a car. These fake cops had neither. Marcus started his truck engine. "Gentlemen, this conversation is over. I am going into my house now. Do not follow me or try to stop me." Thornton stepped in front of the truck. "Sir, you cannot leave. This is an active investigation. If you try to flee, I will add evading arrest to your charges." Marcus could not believe how bold these guys were. They were actually threatening to arrest a real police officer. They were either very stupid or very crazy. Maybe both. Marcus put the truck in reverse and slowly backed out of his driveway. Thornton had to jump out of the way to avoid getting run over. Davis was shouting something about vehicle impoundment and additional fines. As Marcus drove away, he could see Thornton in his rearview mirror. The fake cop was talking into his fake radio and writing in his notebook. He looked angry and frustrated that his victim had gotten away. Marcus drove around the block and parked on the next street over. He needed to think about what had just happened. These guys were clearly dangerous. They were fooling people into thinking they had real police authority. They were probably collecting money from scared residents who did not know any better. Marcus pulled out his cell phone and started making calls. This was going to be a very interesting day off. Marcus sat in his truck on Oak Street, trying to decide what to do next. He had dealt with police impersonators before, but never ones who were this bold. Most fake cops ran away when they saw a real badge. Thornton and Davis acted like they really believed they had police powers. Marcus's first instinct was to call his captain and report the incident. But he realized this was more complicated than a simple case of police impersonation. These guys claimed to work for the HOA. That meant other people in the neighborhood might be involved. Marcus needed to find out how deep this problem went before he called for backup. Marcus decided to drive around the neighborhood and see what else he could learn. Willowbrook Estates had about 200 houses spread over several streets. If Thornton and Davis were really patrolling the area, other residents had probably seen them too. As Marcus drove slowly through the neighborhood, he noticed things he had never paid attention to before. There were small signs posted on some street corners that said, "Community Security Patrol" and "Slow down, we are watching." The signs looked official, with the same logo that was on Thornton's fake uniform. Marcus also noticed security cameras mounted on light poles throughout the neighborhood. He had always assumed they belonged to the HOA for general security. But now he wondered if Thornton and Davis were using them to spy on residents. Marcus drove past the community clubhouse and saw 2 more white sedans parked in the lot. Both cars had the same magnetic emergency lights that Thornton had used. One car had a driver sitting inside wearing the same fake uniform. The man was eating a sandwich and watching the street like he was on patrol. Marcus pulled into the clubhouse parking lot and parked where he could watch the fake cop. The man in the car did not seem to notice Marcus. He was too busy staring at passing cars and writing notes in a logbook. After about 10 minutes, an elderly woman drove past in a silver Honda. She was driving slowly and carefully, probably going about 15 miles per hour. The fake cop immediately started his car and pulled out behind her. He followed her for 2 blocks before turning on his emergency lights. Marcus could not believe what he was seeing. These guys were actually conducting regular traffic stops throughout the neighborhood. They were not just playing dress-up for fun. They had turned police impersonation into a full-time job. Marcus watched as the fake cop approached the elderly woman's car. Even from a distance, Marcus could see that the woman was scared. She kept her hands on the steering wheel and nodded at everything the fake cop said. After a few minutes, the man handed her what looked like a ticket and walked back to his car. Marcus was furious. These criminals were terrorizing innocent people. The elderly woman probably had no idea that the man who stopped her was not a real police officer. She would probably go home and worry about the ticket for days. Marcus pulled out his cell phone and called his partner, Detective Lisa Wong. Lisa worked in the Criminal Investigation Division and specialized in fraud cases. If anyone would know how to handle this situation, it would be her. "Hey, Marcus," Lisa answered on the second ring. "I thought you were off today. Do not tell me you are working another double shift." "Lisa, I need your help with something strange," Marcus said. "I just got pulled over by fake cops in my own neighborhood. But it is not just a simple impersonation case. These guys think they have real police authority from the HOA." Marcus explained everything that had happened with Thornton and Davis. He also told Lisa about the other fake cops he was watching and the signs posted around the neighborhood. Lisa was quiet for a moment after Marcus finished his story. "Marcus, this sounds like organized criminal activity. If they are collecting money from residents with fake tickets, that is fraud and extortion. If they are conducting searches without warrants, that is illegal detention. How many of these fake cops are there?" "I have seen at least 3 so far," Marcus said. "But there might be more. They have signs posted all over the neighborhood and multiple patrol cars. This looks like a full operation, not just a couple of guys playing around." "You need to report this to the FBI," Lisa said. "Police impersonation across state lines is a federal crime. And if they are running an organized fraud scheme, the feds will want to investigate." Marcus had not thought about federal involvement. But Lisa was right. If elite residential enforcement was operating in multiple states, this could be much bigger than just a local problem. I want to gather more evidence first, Marcus said. I need to find out who hired these guys and how long they have been operating. The neighbors might have information that could help build a case. Marcus drove to the end of Oak Street and parked near a small playground. Several mothers were there with their children, talking while the kids played on the swings and slides. Marcus got out of his truck and walked over to the group. "Excuse me, ladies," Marcus said politely. "I live on Elm Drive, and I was wondering if any of you have had problems with the new security patrol in the neighborhood." The mothers looked at each other with worried expressions. One woman, a blonde in her 30s wearing yoga clothes, spoke up first. "Are you talking about those men in the white cars?" she asked. "They stopped my husband last week for driving too fast to the mailbox. They gave him a ticket for $200. Another woman, a brunette with a baby stroller, nodded. "They stopped me too. They said my car was too loud and gave me a citation for disturbing the peace. I was just driving to pick up my daughter from school." A third woman, older with gray hair, looked around nervously before speaking. "They searched my car without permission. They said they were looking for drugs or weapons that might endanger the community. I was too scared to tell them no." Marcus felt his anger growing as he listened to these stories. These fake cops were not just writing bogus tickets. They were violating people's constitutional rights. They were conducting illegal searches and seizures. They were using fear and intimidation to control an entire neighborhood. "Did any of you report these incidents to the real police?" Marcus asked. The blonde woman shook her head. "We thought they were real police. Their uniforms looked official, and they acted like they knew what they were doing. It was not until my husband tried to fight the ticket that we found out they are not real cops." "How did you find out?" Marcus asked. "My husband is a lawyer," the woman explained. "He tried to look up the citation number in the court system and it did not exist. He called the county courthouse and they said they had never heard of elite residential enforcement. That is when we realized we had been scammed." Marcus asked for the woman's contact information so he could follow up later. He also gave her his business card and told her to call him if the fake cops bothered her family again. As Marcus walked back to his truck, his cell phone rang. The caller ID showed his home number. His wife Sarah was calling. "Marcus, where are you?" Sarah sounded worried. "There are 2 men in uniforms at our front door. They say they need to talk to you about a traffic violation. They have been knocking for 10 minutes. Marcus felt his blood pressure rising. Thornton and Davis had followed him home. They were now harassing his family. This had gone way too far. "Sarah, do not open the door," Marcus said firmly. "Those men are not real police officers. They are criminals pretending to be cops. I am on my way home right now. What should I do if they do not leave?" Sarah asked. "Call 911 and tell them there are men impersonating police officers at your house," Marcus said. "Tell them your husband is a state trooper and he is on his way home. I will be there in 5 minutes." Marcus drove quickly through the neighborhood toward his house. As he turned onto Elm Drive, he could see Thornton and Davis standing on his front porch. They were looking through his windows and trying to peer into his garage. Marcus parked in his driveway and got out of his truck. He was no longer interested in playing games with these guys. They had crossed the line when they came to his house and bothered his family. "Get off my property right now," Marcus said loudly as he walked toward the porch. Thornton turned around with a smug smile on his face. "Sergeant Rivera, we need to discuss your behavior earlier today. You fled the scene of a traffic stop and refused to accept a lawful citation. That makes you a fugitive from community justice." Marcus stopped walking when he was about 10 feet away from the 2 fake cops. He did not want to get close enough for them to try something stupid. "You have 5 seconds to get off my property before I place you both under arrest for criminal trespassing." Davis stepped forward and put his hand on his fake gun. "Sir, you are the one who is going to be arrested. We have called for backup and additional units are on the way. You are going to jail for evading arrest and threatening law enforcement officers." Marcus almost laughed. These guys were so delusional that they actually thought they could arrest a real police officer. They had no idea how much trouble they were in. "I am giving you one last warning," Marcus said. "Leave my property now or face the consequences." Thornton pulled out what looked like a pair of handcuffs. They were plastic and bright orange like toys from a costume shop. "Sergeant Rivera, you are under arrest for multiple violations of community law. You have the right to remain silent." That was when Marcus heard the sirens in the distance. The sirens got louder as 3 real police cars turned onto Elm Drive. Marcus felt relieved to see his fellow officers arriving. Thornton and Davis, however, looked like they were seeing ghosts. Their confident smiles disappeared and they started backing toward their white sedan. The first patrol car pulled up behind Thornton's vehicle, blocking it in. Officer Jenny Martinez got out, someone Marcus had worked with many times. She looked confused as she took in the scene. 2 men in fake uniforms standing on a porch and Marcus in civilian clothes watching them. "Marcus, what is going on here?" Jenny asked as she approached. "We got a call about police impersonators threatening a trooper's family." Before Marcus could answer, Thornton stepped forward with his chest puffed out. "Officer, I am Security Chief Bradley Thornton of Elite Residential Enforcement. We are conducting a lawful arrest of this man for multiple community violations. You need to assist us in taking him into custody." Jenny looked at Thornton like he had grown a second head. She had been a police officer for 8 years and had never heard anything so ridiculous. "Sir, I need to see your police credentials immediately." Thornton reached for his fake badge, but Davis grabbed his arm and whispered something in his ear. Marcus could see them having a quick argument about what to do next. They were finally realizing that their little game was over. 2 more officers got out of the other patrol cars. Marcus recognized Officer Tom Bradley and Sergeant Carol Hughes from the County Sheriff's Department. Word was spreading quickly through law enforcement channels about the fake cops in Willowbrook Estates. "Gentlemen, you need to put your hands where we can see them," Sergeant Hughes said firmly. "You are suspected of impersonating police officers, which is a felony." Thornton tried one last time to maintain his authority. "This is a mistake. We have full legal authorization to operate in this community. The Homeowners Association gave us complete law enforcement powers." Officer Bradley walked over to examine Thornton's fake uniform. "Sir, this badge is plastic. Your patches are sewn on crooked. Your radio is a toy. You are under arrest for criminal impersonation of a law enforcement officer." As the real officers handcuffed Thornton and Davis, Marcus explained what had happened. He told them about the fake traffic stop, the bogus ticket, and the threats against his family. He also mentioned the other fake cops he had seen patrolling the neighborhood. "We need to search their car and equipment," Sergeant Hughes said. "If they have been running a scam operation, there will be evidence inside their vehicle." The search of Thornton's car revealed a treasure trove of evidence. In the trunk, officers found boxes of fake tickets, plastic handcuffs, toy guns, fake badges, and counterfeit police uniforms. There was also a notebook with detailed records of every person they had stopped and how much money they had collected. Marcus looked through the notebook while the officers processed the arrest. What he found made him sick to his stomach. Thornton and Davis had been operating in Willowbrook Estates for over 6 months. They had written more than 300 fake tickets. They had collected over $50,000 in fraudulent fines. The notebook also contained disturbing notes about residents. Thornton had written things like, "Elderly woman, easy target, and young mother too scared to fight back." He had been deliberately targeting people who were unlikely to question his authority. But the most shocking discovery was a contract between Elite Residential Enforcement and the Willowbrook Estates HOA Board. The contract authorized the security company to enforce all traffic laws and community standards within the gated community. It gave them permission to detain violators and issue citations for infractions. Marcus showed the contract to Sergeant Hughes. "Carol, look at this. The HOA board actually hired these guys and gave them written authorization to act like police officers." Sergeant Hughes read the contract carefully. "Marcus, this is worse than simple police impersonation. This looks like conspiracy to commit fraud. If the HOA board knew these guys were not real cops, they could be criminally liable too." The contract was signed by 5 members of the HOA board, including the president, Robert Wellington. Marcus recognized the name because Wellington lived in one of the biggest houses in the neighborhood. He was a retired businessman who took the HOA very seriously. "We need to talk to the HOA board members," Marcus said. "They either hired criminals without checking their credentials, or they knowingly participated in a fraud scheme." Officer Martinez came over with more evidence from the car search. "Marcus, look what we found under the back seat." She held up a stack of cash and checks. "There is almost $10,000 here, plus dozens of checks made out to Elite Residential Enforcement." Marcus realized that Thornton and Davis were not just collecting money for fun. They had turned police impersonation into a profitable business. They were stealing from hardworking families who thought they were paying legitimate fines. As the fake cops were loaded into patrol cars, neighbors started coming out of their houses to watch. Marcus saw Mrs. Patterson from across the street, Mr. Johnson from next door, and several other people he recognized. Some of them looked relieved. Others seemed confused about what was happening. Marcus decided to talk to his neighbors while the evidence was fresh in his mind. He walked over to Mrs. Patterson, who was standing on her porch with her coffee mug. "Mrs. Patterson, have you had any problems with the security patrol?" Marcus asked. The elderly woman looked around nervously before answering. "Oh, yes, dear. They stopped me 3 times in the past month. Once for driving too slow, once for having a dirty car, and once for parking in my own driveway the wrong way." "Did you pay the fines?" Marcus asked. Mrs. Patterson nodded sadly. "I paid over $400. I was scared of what would happen if I did not pay. They said they would have my car towed and put me in jail." Marcus felt angry again as he listened to Mrs. Patterson's story. These criminals had been terrorizing an elderly woman and stealing her money. She was probably living on a fixed income and could not afford to lose $400. "Mrs. Patterson, those men were not real police officers," Marcus explained gently. "They were criminals pretending to be cops. The money you paid was stolen from you. You can get it back by filing a report with the police." Mrs. Patterson looked shocked. "They were not real police? But they had uniforms and badges and official-looking tickets. How was I supposed to know they were fake?" Marcus realized that many residents had been fooled the same way. Thornton and Davis had invested money in realistic-looking equipment and uniforms. To the average person, they probably looked like legitimate law enforcement officers. Marcus spent the next hour talking to neighbors and collecting their stories. He learned that elite residential enforcement had been very busy in Willowbrook Estates. They had stopped dozens of residents for ridiculous violations like excessive grass height, unauthorized bird feeding, and suspicious pedestrian behavior. One neighbor, a college student named Jake Morrison, told Marcus about being cited for loitering with intent to visit parents. Jake had been walking from his car to his parents' house when Thornton stopped him and demanded identification. When Jake could not immediately prove he lived in the neighborhood, Thornton wrote him a ticket for $300. Another neighbor, Mrs. Chen, had been stopped for what Thornton called driving while Asian in a luxury vehicle suspiciously. The fake cop claimed that her expensive car was evidence of possible drug dealing or money laundering. He searched her vehicle without permission and threatened to arrest her when she objected. Marcus was amazed by how bold and stupid these fake cops had been. They had violated every constitutional right imaginable. They had conducted illegal searches, detained people without cause, and stolen thousands of dollars. They had turned a quiet neighborhood into a police state. As Marcus gathered more evidence, he realized this case was going to be much bigger than he initially thought. Elite residential enforcement was not just 2 guys playing dress-up. They had created an entire fake police department, complete with uniforms, equipment, vehicles, and official-looking paperwork. Marcus also realized that the HOA board had serious questions to answer. How could they hire a security company without checking their credentials? How could they give authorization for activities that only real police officers could legally perform? Either they were incredibly stupid or they were part of the scam. Detective Lisa Wong arrived at the scene just as the patrol cars were leaving with Thornton and Davis. She had been following the case from her office and came to help with the investigation. "Marcus, this is unbelievable," Lisa said as she looked through the evidence. "These guys created an entire fake police department. Look at all this equipment and paperwork. This must have cost them thousands of dollars to set up." Marcus showed Lisa the contract with the HOA board. "Lisa, this goes deeper than just 2 fake cops. The HOA board authorized this whole operation. They might be criminally liable as accessories to fraud." Lisa read the contract carefully. "Marcus, we need to interview every member of the HOA board. We also need to get financial records from elite residential enforcement. If they have been operating in other neighborhoods, there could be hundreds of victims." The next morning, Marcus woke up to find his phone buzzing with calls and text messages. Word about the fake cops had spread through Willowbrook Estates like wildfire. Neighbors who had been too embarrassed or scared to speak up before were now coming forward with their own stories. Marcus's first call was from his neighbor, Mr. Johnson. The retired teacher sounded upset and angry. "Marcus, I saw what happened yesterday at your house. I need to tell you something. Those fake cops stopped me 2 weeks ago. Marcus grabbed a notepad and started taking notes. What happened, Mr. Johnson? They said I was driving suspiciously through the neighborhood, Mr. Johnson explained. They claimed I was casing houses for a burglary. They made me get out of my car and searched through all my belongings. They found my prescription medication and accused me of being a drug dealer. Marcus felt his anger rising again. Did they arrest you? No, but they threatened to, Mr. Johnson said. They said they would let me go with just a warning if I paid a $200 fine for suspicious behavior. I was so scared that I wrote them a check right there on the spot. Marcus added Mr. Johnson's story to his growing list of victims. The fake cops had been using fear and intimidation to steal money from innocent people. They targeted elderly residents, women, and anyone else who seemed unlikely to fight back. Marcus's second call was from Sarah Chen, the woman who had been stopped for driving while Asian in a luxury vehicle suspiciously. She sounded embarrassed as she told her story. Officer Rivera, I was too ashamed to report what happened, Sarah said. I thought maybe I had done something wrong. I have lived in this country for 20 years, but I still worry about making trouble with the police. Marcus felt terrible for Sarah. The fake cops had used racial profiling to target and intimidate her. They had exploited her fear of authority figures to steal her money and violate her rights. Sarah, you did nothing wrong, Marcus assured her. These men were criminals, not police officers. They targeted you because of your race, which is illegal and disgusting. Sarah's story was particularly disturbing. Thornton had made her empty her purse and show him all her credit cards and identification. He claimed he was looking for evidence of money laundering or drug trafficking. When Sarah asked why she was being singled out, Thornton told her that people like her were always suspicious in upscale neighborhoods. Marcus's third call was from Jake Morrison, the college student who had been cited for loitering with intent to visit parents. Jake sounded angry and frustrated. Officer Rivera, I tried to fight that stupid ticket, Jake said. I called the phone number on the citation, and some guy answered saying he was a community court clerk. He told me I could either pay the fine or appear in court to fight it. Marcus was intrigued. Did you try to go to court? I tried, Jake said. The address on the ticket was for a strip mall office building. When I went there, the office was empty except for some folding chairs and a card table. There was a guy in a suit who said he was the community judge. He told me I was guilty and owed $600 in fines and court costs. Marcus realized that elite residential enforcement had created an entire fake legal system. They had fake police officers, fake tickets, fake court dates, and fake judges. It was a complete scam operation designed to fool people into paying money. Marcus spent the rest of the morning talking to neighbors and collecting their stories. By noon, he had documented over 20 separate incidents involving the fake cops. The total amount of money stolen was approaching $15,000, and those were just the cases he knew about. The most heartbreaking story came from Mrs. Williams, an elderly widow who lived alone at the end of Oak Street. The fake cops had stopped her for excessive elderly driving and searched her car without permission. They found her late husband's military medals in the glove compartment and accused her of stealing them from a veteran. They said I was too old to drive safely, Mrs. Williams told Marcus through tears. They said I was going to kill someone and they should take away my license. They made me feel like a criminal for driving to the grocery store. Marcus was furious that these criminals had terrorized a grieving widow. Mrs. Williams had paid them $500 and had been too scared to leave her house for weeks afterward as Marcus gathered more evidence. He noticed a pattern in the fake cops' behavior. They targeted people who were unlikely to fight back or report them to authorities. Elderly residents, immigrants, young people, and women were their favorite victims. They avoided stopping middle-aged white men or anyone who looked like they might have money for lawyers. Marcus also noticed that many victims had been too embarrassed to tell anyone about their encounters with the fake cops. They thought they had done something wrong and deserved to be punished. The fake cops had used psychological manipulation to make their victims feel guilty and ashamed. Detective Lisa Wong called Marcus around lunchtime with an update from the investigation. Marcus, this case gets weirder every hour. We searched Thornton's apartment and found evidence that he has been running similar scams in Florida and North Carolina. How many victims are we talking about? Marcus asked. Hundreds, maybe thousands, Lisa said. We found boxes of fake tickets from different communities. We also found bank records showing deposits of over $200,000 in the past year. This guy was making serious money from his fake police department. Lisa also had disturbing news about the HOA board. Marcus, we interviewed Robert Wellington, the HOA president. He claims he had no idea that Elite Residential Enforcement was not a legitimate law enforcement agency. Do you believe him? Marcus asked. I'm not sure, Lisa said. Either he is the most gullible person in the world, or he was getting a kickback from the scam. We found records showing the HOA paid Elite Residential Enforcement over $30,000 in the past 6 months. Marcus realized that the HOA board members needed to be investigated as potential co-conspirators. If they knew that Thornton and Davis were not real cops, they could be charged with fraud and conspiracy. That afternoon, Marcus decided to organize a neighborhood meeting to help victims come forward and share information. He posted flyers around Willowbrook Estates inviting residents to meet at the community clubhouse that evening. The response was overwhelming. Over 60 people showed up to the meeting, filling every chair in the clubhouse and leaving standing room only. Marcus had expected maybe a dozen people, but it seemed like half the neighborhood wanted to talk about their experiences with the fake cops. Marcus started the meeting by explaining his own encounter with Thornton and Davis. He told the crowd about the fake traffic stop, the bogus ticket, and the threats against his family. He also explained that Thornton and Davis were now in jail and could not hurt anyone else. I want everyone to know that you are safe now, Marcus said. These criminals cannot threaten you anymore, but we need your help to make sure they get the punishment they deserve and that you get your money back. One by one, residents stood up to share their stories. Marcus was amazed by how many people had been victimized by the fake cops. The stories were all similar: bogus traffic stops, ridiculous citations, threats of arrest, and demands for immediate payment. Mrs. Patterson told the crowd about being stopped 3 times and paying over $400 in fake fines. Sarah Chen described the racial profiling and illegal search of her vehicle. Jake Morrison explained the fake court system and the phony judge who had tried to steal even more money from him. The most shocking story came from Tom Bradley, a local businessman who had been stopped by the fake cops while driving his company truck. Thornton had accused him of commercial vehicle violations and demanded to see permits and licenses that did not exist. When Tom protested, Thornton threatened to have his truck impounded and his business license revoked. They made me feel like a criminal for driving my own truck in my own neighborhood, Tom told the crowd. I paid them $800 because I was scared they would shut down my business. As the meeting continued, Marcus realized that the fake cops had created a climate of fear in Willowbrook Estates. Residents were afraid to drive their own cars, park in their own driveways, or even walk around their own neighborhood. The community had become a police state run by criminals, but the meeting also showed Marcus something hopeful. Now that residents knew the truth about the fake cops, they were angry instead of scared. They wanted justice for what had been done to them. They wanted their money back, and they wanted to make sure this never happened again. By the end of the meeting, Marcus had collected contact information from 47 victims of the fake police scam. The total amount of money stolen was over $60,000, and that was just from one neighborhood. When the investigation expanded to other communities, the numbers would be much higher. Marcus also learned that several residents had tried to report the fake cops to the HOA board, but their complaints had been ignored or dismissed. The board members had told residents that Elite Residential Enforcement was a legitimate security company with full authority to enforce community rules. It sounds like the HOA board was either incompetent or corrupt, said Jennifer Walsh, a lawyer who lived on Pine Street. Either way, 3 days after the neighborhood meeting, Marcus thought the case against the fake cops was solid. He had witness statements from dozens of victims. He had physical evidence of fraud and police impersonation. He had bank records showing stolen money. But when he tried to move the case forward through official channels, he hit unexpected roadblocks. Marcus started by meeting with his captain, Robert Morrison, to brief him on the investigation. Captain Morrison listened to Marcus's report and reviewed the evidence file. Marcus expected his boss to be outraged by what the fake cops had done. Instead, Morrison seemed uncomfortable and reluctant to get involved. Marcus, this is a complicated situation, Morrison said slowly. These Elite Residential Enforcement guys were hired by the HOA board. That makes this a civil matter between residents and their homeowners association. Marcus could not believe what he was hearing. Captain, these guys committed dozens of felonies. They impersonated police officers, conducted illegal searches, and stole thousands of dollars. How is that a civil matter? Morrison shifted in his chair and avoided eye contact with Marcus. The district attorney's office is concerned about overreach. They do not want to interfere with private security companies that have been authorized by property owners. Marcus realized that someone had gotten to his captain. Elite Residential Enforcement or the HOA board had connections that were protecting them from prosecution. Captain, with all due respect, these guys were not legitimate security guards. They were criminals with toy badges and fake uniforms. I understand your frustration, Marcus, Morrison said, but you need to be careful about how you handle this case. There are people involved who have influence in this community. You do not want to make enemies of the wrong people. Marcus left his captain's office feeling frustrated and confused. He had never seen Morrison back down from a clear case of criminal activity. Someone with power was protecting the fake cops, and Marcus needed to find out who. Marcus's next stop was the district attorney's office. He made an appointment with Assistant DA Patricia Gonzalez, who specialized in fraud cases. Marcus had worked with Gonzalez before and trusted her to do the right thing. Gonzalez reviewed Marcus's evidence file and seemed impressed by the thoroughness of the investigation. Marcus, this is excellent work. You have documented a clear pattern of criminal activity. These fake cops should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Marcus felt relieved that at least one person in authority was taking the case seriously. Patricia, what do we need to do to move forward with charges? Gonzalez's expression changed from supportive to concerned. Marcus, I need to be honest with you. I have been getting pressure from above to handle this case carefully. There are political considerations that complicate the prosecution. What kind of political considerations? Marcus asked, though he was starting to guess the answer. Bradley Thornton's brother-in-law is City Councilman Richard Blackwood, Gonzalez explained. Blackwood has been calling my boss and claiming that this is all a misunderstanding. He says his brother-in-law was providing legitimate security services that were authorized by the HOA. Marcus felt his anger rising. Patricia, you have seen the evidence. Thornton was using toy badges and plastic handcuffs. He was conducting illegal searches and stealing money from elderly residents. How is that legitimate security work? Gonzalez nodded sympathetically. I agree with you completely, Marcus. But Councilman Blackwood has influence with the mayor and the city council. My boss is worried about political backlash if we prosecute a case that might embarrass important people. Marcus realized that the fake cops had better connections than he thought. They were not just random criminals. They had family members in positions of power who were protecting them from prosecution. So what happens now? Marcus asked. Do we just let these criminals walk free because they have political connections? Gonzalez looked uncomfortable. Marcus, I am going to do everything I can to prosecute this case. But I need you to understand that it might take longer than usual. We need to build such a strong case that even the politicians cannot ignore it. Marcus left the DA's office feeling more frustrated than ever. He had clear evidence of serious crimes, but the justice system was protecting the criminals instead of the victims. He realized that he was fighting more than just fake cops. He was fighting corruption and political influence. That afternoon, Marcus received a call that made the situation even worse. Detective Lisa Wong called with disturbing news about the investigation. Marcus, we have a problem, Lisa said. Thornton and Davis made bail this morning. They are back on the street. Marcus was shocked. How did they make bail? They were charged with multiple felonies. Their lawyer argued that they were legitimate security guards who were just doing their job, Lisa explained. The judge set bail at $50,000 each and someone paid it immediately. Marcus suspected that Councilman Blackwood had arranged for his brother-in-law's bail. The fake cops were free to continue their criminal activities while the justice system protected them. But the worst news was yet to come. That evening, Marcus received a certified letter at his home. It was from a law firm representing Elite Residential Enforcement. The letter accused Marcus of harassment, defamation, and abuse of his position as a police officer. The letter claimed that Marcus had conducted an illegal investigation of a legitimate security company. It accused him of intimidating residents and encouraging false complaints against Elite Residential Enforcement. The lawyers demanded that Marcus stop his investigation and issue a public apology, or face a lawsuit for damages. Marcus showed the letter to his wife, Sarah, who was outraged by the accusations. Marcus, this is ridiculous. You are protecting our neighbors from criminals. How can they sue you for doing your job? Marcus was angry but not surprised. Sarah, they are trying to intimidate me into dropping the case. They think they can scare me with threats of lawsuits and political pressure. The next morning, Marcus received even worse news. His captain called him into the office and informed him that Internal Affairs was opening an investigation into his conduct. Marcus, there have been complaints filed against you, Captain Morrison said reluctantly. The complainants allege that you abused your authority and conducted an unauthorized investigation of a private security company. Marcus felt like he was living in an alternate reality. Captain, I was investigating criminals who were impersonating police officers and stealing money from residents. How is that abuse of authority? Morrison handed Marcus a copy of the Internal Affairs complaint. It was signed by Robert Wellington, the HOA president, and 3 other board members. They accused Marcus of harassment, intimidation, and exceeding his jurisdiction. Marcus, I have to suspend you pending the outcome of the Internal Affairs investigation, Morrison said. I am sorry, but my hands are tied. The complaint comes from influential people in the community. Marcus realized that the fake cops and their allies were using every weapon they had to destroy him. They were turning his own police department against him and trying to end his career. As Marcus cleaned out his desk and turned in his badge and gun, he felt more determined than ever to fight back. The criminals had made a mistake by targeting him personally. They had turned a simple fraud case into a war, and Marcus was not going to surrender. That afternoon, Marcus met with Jennifer Walsh, the lawyer who had offered to represent the victims in a class action lawsuit. Jennifer was outraged when Marcus told her about the political pressure and retaliation he was facing. Marcus, this is exactly what we expected would happen, Jennifer said. Corrupt people always fight back when they are exposed. But we have something they do not have, the truth and evidence of their crimes. Jennifer explained that the civil lawsuit would proceed regardless of what happened with the criminal prosecution. Marcus, we can prove in civil court that these fake cops stole money and violated people's rights. We do not need the district attorney's permission to seek justice. Jennifer also had good news about the investigation. Marcus, I hired a private investigator to look into elite residential enforcement. He found evidence that they have been running similar scams in 6 different states. The FBI is now interested in the case. Marcus felt hope for the first time in days. Jennifer, do you think the FBI will actually investigate? I think they have to, Jennifer said. When criminals cross state lines and use fake federal credentials, it becomes a federal case. The local politicians cannot protect them from federal prosecution. That evening, Marcus received a call from Agent Rebecca Thompson of the FBI's white-collar crime unit. She had been assigned to investigate elite residential enforcement and wanted to meet with Marcus the next day. Officer Rivera, we have been tracking this organization for several months, Agent Thompson said. Your case in Willowbrook Estates is just the tip of the iceberg. We believe these criminals have stolen millions of dollars from victims across the country. Marcus felt vindicated. Finally, someone with real authority was taking the case seriously. The fake cops might have local political protection, but they could not hide from the federal government. As Marcus prepared for his meeting with the FBI, he realized that his suspension from the police department might actually be a blessing in disguise. 2 weeks after Marcus was suspended from his job, the situation in Willowbrook Estates took a dangerous turn. Despite being out on bail and facing multiple charges, Thornton and Davis had returned to the neighborhood and resumed their fake police operations. They seemed more aggressive than before, as if they were trying to intimidate residents into dropping their complaints. Marcus was at home working on paperwork for the FBI investigation when his phone rang. The caller ID showed his daughter Emma's cell phone number. Emma was 17 years old and had just gotten her driver's license 6 months ago. She was normally a careful and responsible driver. Dad, I need help, Emma said in a shaky voice. There are men with flashing lights behind me and they want me to pull over. I am scared. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. Emma, where are you right now? I am on Elm Drive, about 3 blocks from our house, Emma said. I was coming home from Jessica's house when they started following me. They have been behind me for 5 minutes with their lights flashing. Marcus could hear the fear in his daughter's voice. He also heard something else in the background. Men shouting orders through a loudspeaker. Emma, can you hear what they are saying? They are telling me to pull over immediately and prepare for a high-risk vehicle stop, Emma said, starting to cry. Dad, what does that mean? What did I do wrong? Marcus grabbed his keys and ran toward his truck. Emma, listen to me carefully. Those men are not real police officers. They are criminals pretending to be cops. Do not pull over for them. Drive straight to the police station on Main Street. But Dad, they look like real police, Emma said. They have uniforms and badges and everything. What if I get in trouble for not stopping? Marcus was already backing out of his driveway. Emma, trust me. These are the same fake cops who have been bothering our neighbors. They are trying to scare you because they are angry at me. Just keep driving to the police station and I will meet you there. Marcus could hear Emma breathing heavily as she tried to stay calm.
Dad, there are 2 cars behind me now.
They are trying to box me in. I do not know what to do. Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. The fake cops were conducting what they called a high-risk vehicle stop on his teenage daughter. They had surrounded her car with multiple vehicles and were treating her like a dangerous criminal. Emma, do not stop no matter what they do, Marcus said firmly. Keep driving toward Main Street. I am 2 minutes behind you. Marcus drove as fast as he dared through the neighborhood streets. He could see the flashing lights ahead of him. Moving slowly toward the exit gate, Emma was doing exactly what he told her, refusing to stop for the fake cops and driving toward real help. As Marcus got closer, he could see the full scope of what the fake cops were doing to his daughter. They had 2 white sedans with magnetic emergency lights boxing in Emma's small Honda Civic. One car was directly behind her, flashing its lights and blaring its siren. The other car was beside her, trying to force her to pull over. Marcus could see Thornton in the passenger seat of one car, using a megaphone to shout orders at Emma. Stop your vehicle immediately. You are under arrest for fleeing and eluding a law enforcement officer. Exit your vehicle with your hands visible. Marcus felt rage unlike anything he had ever experienced. These criminals were terrorizing his child. They were using the same tactics that real police used for dangerous fugitives. Emma must have been terrified, thinking she was about to be arrested by real cops. Emma managed to reach the neighborhood exit gate before the fake cops could force her to stop. The security guard at the gate saw the chase and immediately called 911. Emma drove through the gate and headed toward Main Street with the fake cops still pursuing her. Marcus followed behind, talking to Emma on his cell phone and trying to keep her calm. Emma, you are doing great. Just keep driving straight. The real police station is only 1 mile ahead. Dad, they are still behind me, Emma said, crying harder now. They are saying I am going to jail for resisting arrest. They are saying I am dangerous and they might have to use force to stop me. Marcus could see that the fake cops were escalating the situation. They were treating a 17-year-old girl like a violent criminal. They were using psychological torture to terrorize her. As Emma's car reached Main Street, Marcus could see real police cars responding to the 911 call. 3 patrol cars with flashing lights were racing toward the scene. The fake cops saw them too and immediately turned off their emergency lights and tried to blend into traffic. Emma pulled into the police station parking lot with tears streaming down her face. Marcus arrived 30 seconds later and ran to her car. Emma jumped out and hugged him tightly, shaking with fear and adrenaline. Dad, I thought I was going to jail, Emma sobbed. They said I was resisting arrest and they were going to use force to stop me. I was so scared. Marcus held his daughter and tried to comfort her while real police officers approached. Officer Jenny Martinez, who had helped arrest Thornton and Davis 2 weeks earlier, was the first to reach them. Marcus, what happened here? Jenny asked, looking concerned. Marcus explained how the fake cops had targeted his daughter and conducted a high-risk vehicle stop. He told Jenny about the chase through the neighborhood and the threats that Thornton had made over the megaphone. Jenny looked angry as she listened to Marcus's account. Marcus, this is attempted kidnapping. They surrounded a minor with multiple vehicles and tried to force her to stop. That is a federal crime. Other officers arrived and began taking statements from Emma and Marcus. Emma was still shaking as she described her experience. She told the officers how scared she had been when the fake cops surrounded her car and threatened to arrest her. They said I was driving suspiciously through the neighborhood. Emma said, they said teenage drivers were a threat to community safety, and I needed to be investigated for suspicious youth activity. Marcus felt sick as he listened to his daughter's story. The fake cops had targeted Emma because she was young and vulnerable. They had used the same fear tactics on her that they used on elderly residents and immigrants, but the worst part was still coming. Officer Martinez pulled Marcus aside and told him something that made his blood boil. "Marcus, we tried to arrest Thornton and Davis, but they got away," Martinez said. "When they saw our patrol cars, they abandoned their fake police cars and fled on foot. We found their vehicles in a parking lot 2 blocks away." Marcus realized that the fake cops had planned their escape route. They knew they would be caught eventually, so they had prepared a way to run. They had targeted Emma as revenge against Marcus, then disappeared when real police arrived. "Did you at least impound their fake police cars?" Marcus asked. Martinez nodded. "Yes, and we found more evidence inside. They had detailed surveillance photos of your house and your family's daily routines. They had been planning this attack on Emma for days." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. The fake cops had been stalking his family and planning to kidnap his daughter. This was no longer about fake tickets and stolen money. This was about revenge and terrorism. That evening, Marcus met with FBI agent Rebecca Thompson to report the attempted kidnapping. Agent Thompson was outraged by what had happened to Emma and promised immediate action. "Mr. Rivera, targeting your daughter crosses a line that we cannot ignore," Agent Thompson said. "This is now a federal case involving kidnapping, stalking, and domestic terrorism. We are going to find these men and put them in prison for a very long time." Agent Thompson also had important news about the larger investigation. "Mr. Rivera, we have been monitoring Elite Residential Enforcement's financial records. They have stolen over $2 million from victims in 8 different states. This is one of the largest police impersonation schemes we have ever seen." Marcus felt some satisfaction, knowing that the fake cops would face serious federal charges, but he was still worried about his family's safety while Thornton and Davis were on the run. That night, Marcus installed new security cameras around his house and arranged for real police patrols to drive by every hour. He also hired a private security company to watch his family, while the fake cops were still at large. Emma was traumatized by her experience and had trouble sleeping. She kept waking up from nightmares about being chased by fake police. Marcus realized that the criminals had not just stolen money from their victims, they had stolen their sense of safety and security. The next morning, Marcus received a call from Jennifer Walsh with an update on the civil lawsuit. "Marcus, the attempted kidnapping of your daughter changes everything. We can now sue for emotional distress, assault, stalking, and attempted kidnapping. The damages could be in the millions." Jennifer also had news about the HOA board members who had hired Elite Residential Enforcement. "Marcus, 3 of the board members have resigned and hired criminal defense lawyers. I think they are starting to realize how much trouble they are in." Marcus felt like the tide was finally turning in their favor. The fake cops had made a huge mistake by targeting Emma. Their attack on his daughter had brought federal attention to the case and exposed the full scope of their criminal organization, but Marcus knew the fight was not over yet. Thornton and Davis were still on the run, and they had proven they were willing to target innocent family members. The video that changed everything was captured by Willowbrook Estate's own security cameras. When Emma drove through the neighborhood exit gate while being chased by the fake cops, every moment was recorded in high definition. The footage showed Thornton and Davis surrounding a teenage girl's car with flashing lights and threatening her with arrest. The security company that monitored the cameras was horrified by what they saw. Without being asked, they sent copies of the video to the police, the FBI, and several local news stations. By noon the next day, the footage was playing on every television channel in the city. Marcus watched the news coverage from his living room, feeling both pride and anger as he saw his daughter's brave escape from the fake cops. The video clearly showed that Emma had done nothing wrong. She was simply driving home from a friend's house when she was attacked by criminals pretending to be police officers. The local news anchor, Maria Santos, provided commentary as the video played. This shocking footage shows what appears to be a coordinated attack on a teenage girl by men impersonating police officers. The girl's father is State Trooper Marcus Rivera, who has been investigating fake police activity in this gated community. The video was devastating for Elite Residential Enforcement and their supporters. There was no way to spin the footage or claim that Thornton and Davis were legitimate security guards. They were clearly criminals using fake police equipment to terrorize an innocent child. The public reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Marcus's phone started ringing with calls from reporters, politicians, and ordinary citizens who were outraged by what they had seen. The fake cops had finally gone too far, and the community was demanding justice. The first major break came that afternoon. City Councilman Richard Blackwood, who had been protecting his brother-in-law Thornton, held a press conference to distance himself from the fake police scandal. I want to make it clear that I had no knowledge of my brother-in-law's criminal activities, Blackwood said, looking nervous and sweaty under the television lights. I was told that Elite Residential Enforcement was a legitimate security company, providing services to homeowners associations. Blackwood's statement was obviously false. FBI agents had found emails showing that he had been consulted about the fake police operation from the beginning. But his public disavowal of Thornton showed that even his political protectors were abandoning him. The second break came from an unexpected source. Davis, Thornton's partner in the fake police scheme, contacted the FBI and offered to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. He was tired of running and scared of what Thornton might do to keep him quiet. FBI agent Rebecca Thompson called Marcus with the news. Mr. Rivera, Davis has agreed to testify against Thornton and provide evidence about the entire operation. He is also giving us information about other fake police schemes in different states. Davis revealed that Elite Residential Enforcement was just one part of a larger criminal organization that ran fake police operations across the country. They targeted wealthy gated communities where residents were more likely to pay fines without questioning authority. Davis told us that they made over $3 million in the past 2 years. Agent Thompson explained. They had fake police departments operating in 12 different states, all using the same techniques your neighborhood experienced. The third break came when real police officers finally tracked down Thornton's location. He had been hiding in a cheap motel outside the city, but a desk clerk recognized him from the news coverage and called 911. Marcus was at the FBI office reviewing evidence when Agent Thompson got the call about Thornton's arrest. Mr. Rivera, we got him. Thornton is in custody and he will not be getting bail this time. Marcus felt a huge weight lift off his shoulders. His family was finally safe from the fake cop who had terrorized them. Thornton would face federal charges for kidnapping, fraud, police impersonation, and racketeering. The video of Emma's chase had also sparked a major investigation into the Willowbrook Estates HOA board. The FBI discovered that board president Robert Wellington had been receiving kickbacks from Elite Residential Enforcement. For every fake ticket written, Wellington got 20% of the fine money. Wellington was not just a victim of the scam, Agent Thompson explained to Marcus. He was a full partner in the criminal enterprise. He helped Thornton target specific residents and provided inside information about who had money to steal. The investigation revealed that the entire HOA board had known that Elite Residential Enforcement was not a legitimate police agency. They had hired the fake cops specifically because they wanted more control over residents without the legal restrictions that governed real police officers. 3 weeks after Thornton's arrest, the district attorney finally announced formal charges against all the conspirators. J. Patricia Gonzalez held a press conference to explain the scope of the criminal prosecution. This was not just a case of police impersonation, Gonzalez said. This was an organized criminal enterprise that stole millions of dollars from innocent victims across multiple states. Everyone involved will face the full consequences of their actions. Thornton was charged with 57 felony counts, including racketeering, fraud, kidnapping, and impersonating a federal officer. The prosecutors were seeking a sentence of 25 to 30 years in federal prison. Davis received a lighter sentence of 5 years in exchange for his cooperation. He provided crucial testimony about how the fake police scheme worked and helped the FBI identify victims in other states. The HOA board members faced their own legal troubles. Wellington was charged with conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. The other board members were charged as accessories to the crimes. All of them faced potential prison sentences and massive financial penalties. But the legal victory was only part of Marcus's satisfaction. The civil lawsuit led by attorney Jennifer Walsh was even more successful in getting justice for the victims. We were able to prove that Elite Residential Enforcement and the HOA board violated the civil rights of dozens of residents, Walsh explained to Marcus. The jury awarded our clients over $4 million in damages. Every resident who had been victimized by the fake cops received compensation for their stolen money, plus additional damages for emotional distress and civil rights violations. Mrs. Patterson got back her $400 plus $50,000 in punitive damages. Sarah Chen received compensation for the racial profiling she had endured. Jake Morrison was paid for the harassment he suffered as a college student. Emma also received a settlement for the trauma she experienced during the fake police chase. The money would help pay for her college education and therapy to deal with the emotional effects of the attack. But perhaps the most important outcome was the new legislation that resulted from the case. The fake police scandal in Willowbrook Estates became a national news story that highlighted the dangers of unregulated private security companies. Marcus was invited to testify before the state legislature about the need for stronger oversight of security companies. His testimony helped pass new laws requiring background checks, licensing, and training for anyone claiming law enforcement authority. No community should have to go through what Willowbrook Estates experienced. Marcus told the legislators, private security companies should be regulated and monitored to prevent criminals from exploiting innocent people. The new laws also required clear identification of security personnel and prohibited the use of police-style uniforms and equipment by anyone who was not a certified law enforcement officer. 6 months after the fake police scandal began, Marcus was reinstated to his job with the State Highway Patrol. The internal affairs investigation had been dropped when the FBI proved that Marcus was investigating real criminals, not harassing legitimate security guards. Captain Morrison apologized to Marcus for suspending him. "Marcus, I should have supported you from the beginning. You were doing exactly what a good police officer should do, protecting innocent people from criminals." Marcus was promoted to lieutenant and assigned to a new unit that investigated police impersonation cases. His experience with the fake cops made him the perfect person to identify and stop similar schemes before they could victimize more people. The Willowbrook Estates neighborhood also recovered from its ordeal. The HOA board was replaced with new members who were committed to transparency and accountability. The community implemented new security measures that focused on actual safety rather than harassment of residents. Most importantly, the residents learned to stand up for themselves and question authority when something seemed wrong. The fake police scandal had taught them that uniforms and badges did not automatically deserve respect. Real authority had to be earned through legitimate service to the community. Marcus often drove through his neighborhood and remembered the day when he was pulled over by fake cops in his own driveway. It seemed like a lifetime ago, but he knew that the experience had changed him forever. He was no longer just a highway patrol officer who gave tickets and responded to accidents. He was a protector of innocent people and a fighter against those who would abuse authority for personal gain.